Hello, my name is John Petty, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Growing Up in Flip Flops. This episode is a little bit later in my life. It was immediately after I graduated from university and started my first real professional job. I was with the company about 6 months, either because my boss wanted me out of the office or that I was doing things the right way. They pulled me into a management training protocol. With that, I went to the corporate headquarters and spent about 2 to 3 weeks in accounting, then 2 to 3 weeks in finance. I spent 2 to 3 weeks working at the hedging desk, which was like the pinnacle of everything I wanted to do. And then they sent me out on the road with the company's top college recruiter. At the time, in agriculture at least, it was primarily a male dominated industry. If there was a woman in one of the jobs that I was in, that was a real rarity. So it was primarily male. That'll come in important a little bit later. I went with this college recruiter and we toured college campuses all over the Southeast, Midwest, everything. I was in the car with him long hours traveling between interview sites on college campuses, interviewing these to be college graduates. As it started out, I sat with him and just watched what he did, and then after an interview, he would tell me, or I would ask questions about, well, why did you do this? Why'd you ask this question? He would ask, did you see how the interviewee responded to this one question, and explain all the decisions that he made? And on it went, that eventually I was able to ask a question during the interview process, and then eventually I asked all the questions with him watching, and then we critique what I did and if I had the same reaction as he did. And then finally I was doing interviews completely on my own. I will give you the craziest interview I had. I had a lot of crazy interviews, but this was probably the funniest. Came in, kid presents his resume, has his education, and on the work, he has one day, June 26, 1979, whatever. I looked at him and I said, could you please tell me this date that you worked at this location? Was that your start or end date? And he looks at me very seriously and says, oh no, that's the day I worked there. Okay. I figured, well, I'm in this deep, I might as well go all the way. I asked him, so why were you only there for one day? And he said, oh, they wanted me there at 8 o'clock in the morning every day. There's no way I was going to do that. Okay. Well, that interview ended about 45 seconds after he gave that response. I am still, to this day, in amazement that that person was so confident in himself that he put down on his resume that he worked at a place for one day. Wow. Just wow. Anyway, on to the more interesting part of my time working with this recruiter. Like I said, spent a lot of time in the car with him, and two questions I asked him have always remained with me. One was, if you could not ask a question of the person, could you still make a hiring decision from them, just from seeing them? And he answered right away, oh yeah, absolutely. Really? I said, what, based on good looks? What is it? And he goes, no, looks have nothing to do with it. I look at their shoes. What? Yeah, it's their shoes. We want to hire detail-oriented people. And most people don't take care of their shoes because they think nobody's going to notice them. We want people who take care of the little details that they think nobody's going to notice, because that's the people we want to hire. I would base it looking at how he takes care of his shoes. Fascinating. Now, I have heard other versions throughout my life, but that's where I heard it the first time. There's a deal about former Alabama football coach Nick Saban yelling at a player about tucking in his shirt, and if you take care of the small details that you think nobody's caring about or noticing, the bigger, more important details will follow. I guess it follows that same principle. The other question I asked, if there was one single question he could ask and make a hiring determination, what would it be? Now, remember, this is almost exclusively a male industry. And he said, oh yeah, very easy. I'd ask them to tell me about their father. What? He said, if I ask the person to describe themselves, tell me about themselves, they will fib, they'll embellish, they'll hide their warts and scars. I'm going to get a false picture. But if I ask them to tell me about their father, they will in reality be telling me about themselves, unembellished, with no hiding of warts or scars. They're going to be telling me the truth. I was absolutely stunned hearing that. I have done, after I heard that, I did an experiment on myself. Now, again, knowing the answer, how would I have answered that question? I've got to admit the guy was right. I would have been talking about myself. Now, I have brought this up to friends over the past and asked them, and I have not had a male friend that I've asked this of, that after I say, describe your father, and then after they're done, I ask them, was that really you? Every one of them just is stunned and say, oh my God, yeah, I told you about me. Absolutely fascinating. Now, in the intervening years, I have always been fascinated that is there a female equivalent question? I have never found it, but I think it's absolutely fascinating. Ask the questions or see for yourself. See if it still holds true. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you.